Father, we bless you. Teach us your word in the name of Jesus. This is the ministry of Moses, part 56. And we are going to take our text from Numbers chapter 3, verse 12, and also Numbers chapter 10, verse 28 to 36. Before we progress, remember that, remember what happened to Nadab and Abihu. Remember it occurred in the wilderness of Sinai. That was the name of the location where where the two of them bring up a strange fire and they were killed. Now, let us consider verse 12. And I, behold, I have taken the Levite from among the children of Israel, instead of all the firstborn that opened the matrix among the children of Israel. Therefore, the Levite shall be mine. You see, the plan of God formerly was to gather all the firstborn from all the tribes and consecrate them for ministry. But he suddenly changed his mind and decided to pick the entire tribe of Levi. This was why the Lord said, "They are his." After some time, the Lord told Moses to number the tribe of Levi. You can see that in verse, verse, verse 15 to 16. Since God had decided to work with the Levite, he began to work on them. Take note of that. Since God has decided to work with the Levite, he began to work on them. Don't shout at the people that God is using to work on you. They are the major people to celebrate, because until God works on you, he may never work with you. Until God works on you, he may never work with you. Now, in verse 43, Moses numbered all the firstborn male from 1 month upward. The sum was 22,273. That was the total figure of the firstborn in the entire Israel. It is certain that it will be far more than that of the Levite. You can see that in verse 46. Now, from verse 46 to 51, generally, God have chosen the Levite, but in addition to this, he can also pick from the firstborn of the Israelites. But in this case, their redemption money will be paid to Aaron. God told Moses to pay the redemption money of those involved to Aaron. If you are a firstborn and you are not from Levite, then for you to work for God, you will need to pay the redemption money, as you will need redemption before you are enrolled for the ministerial training. Now, the total redemption money Moses gave to Aaron for the people he counted was about 1,365 shekels, and it was after the shekels of the sanctuary. God told Moses to pay a certain money to Aaron, yet he was not jealous of him. He didn't see it as if he was trying to, as if Aaron was trying to hijack his ministry. He obeyed it because he knew God has spoken. Some ministers will not do that because they don't want to look inferior. So, in their bid to secure their ego, they will end up losing their obedience to God. Numbers 4, from verse 4 to 10 now. The Bible was also revealing different laws that the people should observe. That is Numbers chapter 4. From chapter 4 to chapter 10, it shows the laws that God brought up for the people to obey. Now, the redemption money that was paid by those people is just like a form fee for entering into a seminary school. So their own form fee then is what they call the redemption money, because each of them will have to be, certain certification will be done on them. So that money is like for those things that will be done, their form fee, and all those kind of things we do now in our days. One thing to note is that becoming a priest is not for a lazy person. Hope you know that every priest must know the laws. They must know the laws that God gave Moses. At least, if not all, then a large percentage of them. This is because it is from the laws that they will speak to the people if they go to them, and also counsel the people when they come to them. And these laws I'm talking about are thousands of laws. So for you to be a priest, you have to sit and learn those laws. As a matter of fact, what they do in the school of priesthood is to learn the laws of God. So in the school of priesthood, the major assignment is learning the laws of God. Learning all these numerous laws will take several years, and until this is achieved, they will not be qualified to become priests. In the school of priesthood, what the people learn are the laws of God. Something happened in Numbers chapter 10, verse 28 to 32 that is worthy of note. There was a man called Obab, the son of Raguel, the Midianite, Moses' father in law. Moses went to this man among his camp and told him to stay with them. He didn't want him to go because of the role he played in bringing victory to the Israelites and in ensuring peace abound. Let's see Numbers 10:30 to 32. And he said unto him, I will not go, but I will depart to my own land and to my kindred. And he said, Leave us not, I pray thee, for as much as thou knowest how we are to encamp in the wilderness, and thou mayest be to us instead of eyes. And it shall be, if thou go with us, yeah, it shall be that what goodness the Lord shall do unto us, the same he shall do unto thee. At first, Obab said no, because he wanted to return to his people and live with them. But Moses persisted by showing him his function and the reward the Lord will give to him if he chooses to stay with them. Hobab was not part of Moses' congregation, but when he found himself among the Israelites, he did all his best to ensure that things go well and things go orderly. Many of us won't put in our best in the things that is not ours. But when it is ours, then we will start sweating and doing everything possible. That is called wickedness. Learn from Obab. This man found himself among other people, different from his own people, but yet he worked so hard. Even Moses didn't want him to go. Moses, as great as he was, had to beg Obab, as small as he was, because he knew his effectiveness. When people know the high value they will lose if they lose you, then they will never try letting you go. When they know how effective your role is in the organization, they will value your presence. People will never value your presence until they know what you stand to represent. They will never value your presence until they can see and discern the treasures hidden in you. Moses said to Obab, Thou knowest how we are to encamp in the wilderness. This means that there are certain routes in the wilderness that only Obab knows. He knew when and how to pass through them. That is the Lord, you know, that the Lord is leading you on a path doesn't mean you will not need the help of people like Hobab, who has the experience of what God said and what you are likely to pass through. That God is leading you into ministry doesn't mean you will not need you will not need counsel from godly and committed men who have been in ministry before you. Every minister will enter into, every minister who will enter into the promised land needs men like Obab, people who can counsel, you know, and guide them into what to do and how to do it. Obab may not be among the pastors, they may be among the congregation, but you must be wise to discern them and seek for their help. Otherwise, clashing will be inevitable. Another thing Moses said to Obab was, Thou mayest be to us instead of eyes. This means that Obab will be their eyes. To be an eye is to be a spy or a counselor. With this, we know that anytime it is time to fight, Obab will take up the responsibility to spy on the enemies so as to know their strengths and weaknesses. The feedback from Obab's spying will help the Israelites to plan. It will help the Israelites to plan, set their formation, and win. Finally, Moses also assured Obab that if he chose to stay with them, then whatever good thing the Lord is doing to them, he will also do to him. This means that as God is blessing the Israelites, God will also be blessing Obab. After these words from Moses, the Bible didn't tell us that Obab gave any other response. I believe his silence on the issue means that he has agreed to stay. You can see that in verse 33 to 34. Now, if we continue from verse 33 to 24, we are going to see how the Israelites progressed in their journey and how the presence of God was heavily resting on them. In verse 35. In verse 35. Now, in verse 35, Moses ordered them to set the ark of God forward. And then he said, "Arise, O God, and let thy enemies be scattered." Before we use this quote, I think it is important to know the first thing Moses did before saying it. Until you learn to put God first in all that you do, he will never arise against your enemies. Your enemies automatically become his enemies when you put him first in all you do. That's the mystery behind the statement. Don't just use it without having proper understanding. In verse 36, when the ark rested, Moses said, "Return, O Lord, unto Israel." For God to return, then you must prepare a resting place for him in your life. A generation that will bring God back to their midst must be ready to prepare a resting place for him among them. A generation that will bring God back to their midst must be ready to prepare a resting place for God among them. I pray the Lord will help us in the name of Jesus. It was when Moses set the ark of God forward that he said, "Lord, arise and let thy enemies be scattered." So if you are not putting God first, God will never arise and fight your battles. So until you put him first, you may not stop struggling. So the way to make God arise on your behalf is to put God first in all that you do. And any generation that will bring God back must be ready to prepare for God a resting place in their midst. Anyone that will bring God back must be ready to prepare a resting place for God in their lives. Until you prepare a place for God in you, God will not dwell in you. This is the wisdom of God. Don't sell it.